Hey everybody, Goose out the 13th here. Quick update from our newest patch update here. So, it's gonna be another holiday one. Moon Gundam making a big comeback here as we actually get the titular suit itself. Talking about it being a 700 general suit. And it looks like we got another trailer here. Gonna actually have some of these psycho plates in action finally, so let's check that out real quick. So kind of a couple interesting things going on here. If we can actually take a gander at a couple things. If it would let me. Hello? Is the player not gonna come up? Okay, now there we go. So one of the first things that I noticed right out of the gate is that the plates actually seem like they can do some protection as well as the usual stuff. They're pretty much like attack fangs or whatever. It also does have the usual critical attack when it's, or critical counter when it's also at low health. Although apparently, because this one is funnel based, and I think it says it in here somewhere. Yeah, high performance counter for MG. If the counter is formed when the aircraft HP is low, so when it's at low health, a special counter with high power will be generated. However, if the secondary armament cycle plate is in use, a normal counter will occur. So, part of this might seem good, right? Just because you're not actually having to worry about your other attack being interrupted, especially if you were, like, attacking someone from further away and had someone try to rush you down and you had to counter them. At least you can handle both at once and keep doing your damage. Although, if the person that's countering you was at kill range for that higher counter, and suddenly you had to do a normal one, kind of sucks, but at the very least you could still like follow up after the knockdown. Moving on then, we have some new battle simulator stuff. Moon Warrior trial, so the usual. Looks like we're gonna be doing one for the Moon Gundam itself. Let's see. Moon Gundam, which is scheduled to be out in the game earlier. Although, take on units who are deployed by Londo Bell, so Gen 3 power, Jetta, Rig DJ. It doesn't seem to say a whole lot about the other suits that you're going to be dealing with in terms of being on the team, though. So that's a little strange. I would assume, well, maybe not, just because I'm not really sure the relation of the Varguil to the point in time when the Moon Gundam is out, since it's actually like a progression. But hopefully there's some other like relatively newer things that are in the other two slots for the usual co-op stuff. Then we move on to our survival replacement here, which is actually not based in Moon Gundam at all. We're actually talking more Zeta Gundam this time by the end. Fierce battle between when the Titans mobile suits attacked the O, Palestine, Bolanoxamon, and also intervened. Deployed as the Zeta Gundam, an atmosphere which is similar to the original work when it was experienced. So here's a neat little thing. By the way, Keyblade can also appear when some conditions are accomplished, so be sure to play it. So this makes you wonder, considering that they're also showing the Shiki in the picture here. I wonder if it's actually depending on what suits you deploy. It's probably just taking out maybe some of the other suits or a particular suit first. It'll be interesting to see what that actually is. Then we go... Oh my god. We're moving on to the boss here. Nightmare Giant Twins. So, at first glance, and I'll be honest, even after first glance, this seems a little lazy. A little bit, kind of. So, Psycho Gundam Mark 1 and 2. Out together. During this battle, Psycho Gundam will be guests of the mission and also appear during previous boss battles. Twin bosses are bigger versions of the usual mobile suits. which have higher endurance and damage. Also, there will be mobile suits which will defend the bosses attacking players. Depends on players whether they concentrate on the boss only or to take out the surrounding mobile suits first. So, okay. Both of them were already pretty annoying. Now you're having to deal with both of them. It doesn't imply that they're gonna come out in waves either, so after probably the, you know how you usually do the boss battles, you take out the first wave of people and then you deal with these guys. Maybe that's how it happens. I would hope, specifically since they're gonna be both on the field, that it would just drop everything. But on top of all that, and I guess they pulled this from some of the things that they were doing in Code Fairy and whatnot. In addition, there will be support bombardment from the enemy. When you receive a warning about support bombardment, be sure to get away and arrange your strategy here. So, much like some of the missions in Code Fairy, you're also going to get barfed on by random support fire. Now, one thing of note is that the support fire in Code Fairy, especially during those missions, was not quite as encompassing or vicious as it is in GBO2 normally. That being the case, I kind of wonder if they're going to use that shortened version, or if they're actually going to use the regular one that's in GBO2, just because that would probably just be simpler. Kind of depends. I guess if you really wanted to get cheeky about it, you could try to guide where those drop, and then lead the other smaller guard bots into it, and just hope that you can focus on these guys for the rest of the time, because let's be honest, they're gonna be a pain in the ass. I kind of wonder what the overall completion time is going to be for this to get all the rewards, because if it's 3 minutes, oh my god. Like, we got a lot of high damaging stuff nowadays, but I don't know about all that. Anyway, those should be alright. I'm kind of more interested in the trial and the survival one, to be honest, because this seems to indicate that they're willing to go backwards to just make unique scenarios, and I can appreciate that. Hopefully we'll see more of that in the future, and I mean, we'll probably report back on the Nightmare Twin thing, because that's probably going to be the bulk of Banner Drop Night, just dealing with that. But then we move on to high difficulty target badge challenge adjustments. So at first, I wasn't really sure what to make of this, and looking at it, it seems like the percentages that they were getting from this data collection weren't quite as high in terms of favorite units to winning percentage ratio. The interesting thing to note here in particular is, first of all, they did this over, like, essentially a month. Well, maybe a little bit over a month. So from November the 1st to December the 5th was when they were collecting data, and it was ranked, which I'm assuming is rated, and it was A+ players specifically, also specifically on ground, since, you know, they're gonna have more ground data. But interesting that the cutoff is A+ for that. Moving down a little bit, so they've done a couple adjustments in terms of how easy it is to get it and how hard it is to get some of the other prerequisites. So in terms of the adjustments for favorite unit certs, we are looking at General Victory, Rival Victory, Basic Victory, and Ace Match Victory, all being bumped up essentially by 1 in terms of instances, and then easing the difficulty level. We have difficulty of obtaining dealt damage and assist score. In particular, dealt damage, I think they adjusted down specifically because you're not doing base damage anymore, and yet at the same time, if you look at some of the adjustments, it's by like 5,000, 2,500, some like smaller numbers like that, which is a little strange. It doesn't seem like it's that significant of an adjustment, even more so when we look at assist total score. You know, essentially by reducing it by 50, 80, and scaling from there on. So, a little strange. Interesting that those are the two that they focused on at the very least. And of course, as the cost goes up, the scale of how much they adjusted it also increases, just because of general output in terms of damage or possible assist due to speed and, you know, still output. But then we move on to something else here, and this is actually something that I was joking about the other day when I was talking about some of my favorite units. And it is actually having a secondary badge, or essentially a favorite unit certificate for other levels of your actual favorite suit, and it will be in blue. So say, you know, for the example here, if you actually have like the level 1 Gundam as your favorite, so the 2 and 3 would also have certificates for that, but they would, instead of being the red like golden emblem here, it would actually be blue to imply that, well, even though you don't have it being your favorite in that cost range, you still have it on another cost range, which means in general you're just familiar with the suit itself. So that's fair. It's nice that they actually had a quick addition for that. Probably should have just been there from the start, but you know, you're still messing around with a lot of this stuff. And then, appealing new elements for veteran pilots. These are new elements for veteran pilots. We've added accessories, avatar items that can be equipped to pilots, and marks that can be attached to both pilots and mobile suits, so that pilots who have operated a mobile suit and accomplished many high difficulty challenges can show how good they are. So this is something that we have also been talking about for a good while after they introduced this. More pilot swag and more emblem swag is always appreciated. Any kind of aesthetic changes, any sort of cosmetics. Looking at our hairstyler out there who has just been kind of twiddling her thumbs for a long time. But some of these look pretty nice, and it'll be interesting to see who can actually just put these on, and how much longer it's going to take others to try to grab up some emblems and stuff. So you can show that you are a veteran pilot with I can pilot every mobile suit there is. Leave that to me. If you are a player that trusts its own skills and capabilities, why don't you get these rewards? So that's about it for this. In terms of the update itself, it's going to be coming out this week. Hopefully nothing goes wrong. I don't know if this is going to be enough to justify a full-on like having to update and patch it. Maybe specifically, if anything, just because of the if anything, probably just because of the simulator stuff in particular, since it's going to be switching out all those rewards. So quick reminder, I guess, if you haven't done the previous rewards, you have today, which is the 14th as of this recording, and then a good ways into tomorrow before the banner actually drops and the update drops later on in late night, which in this case is going to be essentially just midnight. So if anyone needs to get any of those done, be sure to grab up some friends, get some co-op going, or just maybe try to speedrun it yourself. They don't tend to go into the rewards for these. I actually got my fingers crossed for not only parts and the usual stuff, but maybe a new suit in there. I have a feeling, since they haven't introduced one, that that's not going to be the case in terms of it being new. But I still have my fingers crossed for maybe something else being in there. Maybe a kind of standardish suit, but just something that people don't typically have. But we'll just have to see. But that'll be all for this update. We'll probably talk about this more in the upcoming streams leading up to banner drop night as well, so be sure to tune in over on Twitch or YouTube if I'm actually on there for any grindage. And until then, I'll talk to you guys in the next one.